You're listening to Pyro Media Network, setting radios ablaze since 2017.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Put It in the Manual podcast. Oh, should I even call it an episode at this point? I feel like if you've been rocking with me since I began sharing these manual entries, you're probably sitting here feeling like you are doing more than just coming along the ride with me. We've been talking about a lot of things that have been on my heart. We have been diving in on different things that I think should be put in the manual, different things that I believe the people would benefit from my life lessons and my experience and the things that I have been through. And I don't know, it's just something that's been on my heart. I don't know what's going on in your part of the world or what you're dealing with right now, but I think today's manual entry, as I'll call it, it might be a little bit heavy. So I'll go ahead and give a good old trigger warning that this session may not be as soft as it seems on the outside, because I do want to talk about something that I've been holding close to my heart, close to my chest, and I kind of think that it might be beneficial to talk about it because other people may have been holding on to something like this, and I think I'm learning talking it out, even if you're just listening to someone else talk it out, it could really help. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into it. But yes, that is a good old trigger warning for the people before I get to putting it in the manual. So if you've adjusted, got your chai latte ready, or whatever you're going to sip while I walk us through this moment that has been on my spirit for so long, then we're going to dive right into it. Today, I kind of want to talk about grace. And not just grace in the sense where you hear people say, oh, just give them some grace. They don't know any better. This is about like grace when some major issues happening. For those who don't know me well, I'm an attorney. We talk about that all the time. That's not necessarily the part of my identity that I feel is the best descriptor of who I am as a person, but that's my job. And what I do for a living is kind of help people get back on their feet after something has happened. Now, a lot of people question how I'm able to do this, and sometimes I feel like I'm questioning it too. And just, it's been on my heart. Um, really been on my heart. Also, if you know me, you probably have heard about a situation that kind of shaped my life when I was a little girl. This is some things that were going on at the formative root of Fallon. Things that happened that no family or no child probably could imagine or even want to have to imagine. But I did lose a sibling to gun violence when I was a little girl. I was 9 years old. I think I was in the fourth grade. And just that moment really changed my identity. It changed my family structure. It changed how I saw the world. It changed how I related to the world. Like, just imagine being 9 years old and like having conversations about justice or having conversations about life and death and having to really compartmentalize your feelings because you're just a little girl. And what do I know about something tragic happen? What experience do I have with tragedy at such a young age? So when I was a little girl, my older brother was murdered. Um, I probably have never said this part of that story out loud, but it's something that's stuck in my memory banks. Like, I can remember us being at like a open house. I don't know if they even still do that anymore, where you have open house with your school. And of course, our family went. And I can remember my brother having a conversation with me. I had to have been in like second or third grade. I can't even really remember, but the conversation was about him working. And as a little girl, I can remember clearly stating to him, "Hey, you should go work at McDonald's. That would be cool. We love that place." Like, just casual, whatever. Mind you, this moment is ingrained in my memory, like in the memory banks. I don't even know if I ever told my mom or like my sister or anybody else about this, but I was the one who suggested that he go and, fill out a job application there. And ultimately, that job was tied to his demise, as from what my young mind remembers. And honestly, I don't have all the details. I've never really sat down with my mama or anybody else and just walked through the actual details. But for me as a little girl, it's stuck in my head that you told this person to go and work here. Mind you, who's listening to their little sister? Like, surely all these restaurants, all these places, all these opportunities for somebody who is just trying to get a quick after school job. Like, nobody's taking a little girl seriously. Whatever. I can't say that my suggestion was the one that sealed the deal or solidified him going over there to apply. But long story short, that's where he was working at during the time that he was unalived. And I've heard different theories that it was like a robbery or it could have been something else. Like I said, I don't really know. But in my mind, from that teeny tiny little age, I always kind of kept that in the back of my head. Like, dang, you should have never suggested going to fill out an application right there at that place. Like, why did you have to say that? Like, maybe had you said a different location as a little girl, that could have like changed the course of all of our future, or his past versus the future. Like, it could have changed the past and I said something different. And I just don't know how that moment manifested inside of me as a little girl, over 30 years ago at this point, and how it may have changed me or affected me or even just circumvented who I was supposed to be in that moment, from the time that happened to me just thinking that something awful happened just because me and my little self made that suggestion that seemed to have changed so much, like just literally changed so much. So that was something that I kept in my back pocket, close to my hip, growing up all through these years. It made a difference on my decisions and how I kind of bit my tongue a lot to speak up. And I know me and my therapist probably need to really, really work that out. But honestly, it resurfaced for me. Um, Family secrets, things that go on in families. We're very big on not only preserving family lore, but also hiding and burying family secrets. And my family growing up, we kind of were that type of family that were like, no, nobody needs to know about this, or no, we don't talk about that out loud, or no, we don't share this little bit of information. And I think so many other people's families are like that, um, where certain subjects you just don't talk about. And I think today I just need to air it out. Maybe that'll help me feel better. That'll be some type of revolution in my own healing journey if I get this off my chest. But yeah, I held on to that, and I think grace is something that I need to extend to myself as well as my little self, because there's no way that she could have known that that suggestion would have changed the trajectory of her life. So yeah, grace, reclaiming a narrative, not defining myself by that tragedy, not taking what happened and making it forever be my identity. Fast forward however many odd years, and this is something that has been heavy, heavy, heavy on my entire family. When something like that happens to a family member, it really changes you. Like, it changes everybody. It changes how you relate to people. It can create issues of abandonment. I probably stayed in places too long just because I didn't want to let go, or I felt like I had to hold on tight to every little thing just because I knew what it felt like to lose something or to lose somebody. And I kept that with me. I always had that just inner disdain for bad people who could do things to other people. Like, all of these different things came to me as a child. And ultimately, I do think that played a big part in the career I chose and how I figured I would make it right by being a justice leader or going to law school and making a difference and kind of doing something to make up for that shortcoming that little Fallon said when she suggested that her brother go fill out an application at that place. Um, and I kind of kept that. Like, I thought that was me. I thought that was what I needed to make me feel as if I was doing something right. And it wasn't. Now, I worked very hard to get to a point where I was okay with, you know, making my peace or seeing both sides of the story. And ultimately, I think it's something that I struggle with still to this day, but something else happened. And I wish that one little bit of trauma was the only part of this tale, of this grace, of this discussion that I'm bringing to the people today, but it's not. So, again, with something I probably have not shared publicly, but my close friends know that for the last couple of years, I have been dealing with another family tragedy where the shoe was on the entirely complete different foot. Instead of us losing someone close to me was the one who actually committed a crime. And that just opened up a whole nother can of worms in my psyche. All these years I spent feeling as if justice was needed to be served and tough on crime and just all these different things that I thought were making me react and move how I wanted to. That moment of knowing that someone that's close to me, that I love, that is pretty much like a brother to me, had done something that was almost as grave as the one thing that we as a family struggled to make it through. And that just completely screwed me up. So I don't know, the grace, the need to speak on that now instead of at another time, I don't know. It's just been heavy on my spirit. So that, long story short, is it's kind of how we're getting to this manual entry for today. If you're still listening and I haven't scared you or made you feel triggered, thank you. Thank you for listening, because this has been my life, my real life. And to know me is to know that these experiences pretty much shape who I am and how I move today. I have a very, very heightened sense of doing the right thing. I have a very, very strong command of wanting to be just and fair and wanting everything to work out the right way. And even my husband gets on me because if something doesn't go right, I will spiral. I hate it. I don't like feeling awkward moments. And he always tells me that you can't make everybody happy, or you can't always be the bigger person and fall on the sword just to make something feel better. So just talking about these complicated feelings and all of the things that have been on my spirit that are heavy right now, I appreciate you for tuning in with me. But, anyways, back to my dilemma. I found myself standing in the gap between feeling as if I caused something so terrible to happen at a young age to now being an adult, but on the opposite end of that, knowing that someone else lost a life, knowing that there's other people grieving the loss of someone the same way that I had been all those years, and kind of making my peace with knowing that the person who did it was a part of that same tragedy with me too. And it took a lot out of me, and it's opened up so many just different wounds and different ways to identify with like hurt, different ways to grieve somebody who is still here, or grieving a decision that they made, or questioning yourself as to why something occurred the way it did, and then realizing that even though the situation is horrible, there's always space for grace. And I'm not saying that you have to forgive somebody. That's not the message I want to come out of this conversation or this manual entry. It's that you gotta give yourself grace. You can't control other people's actions. You can't take something that happened and use it as a means to punish yourself or make yourself feel as if you did something wrong. There's a strong but firm line between grace and forgiveness, but also accountability. Accountability comes to the table where we look past the grace. We're looking past the forgiveness aspect of things, and realizing that accountability has to exist in the greater scheme of things, in the grand scheme of things as well. I can't hold myself accountable for that, but I know in that same accord, someone else should be held accountable for what occurred. I can't be sad because someone did something detrimental, but I also can grieve the loss that I will still have to deal with while that person is being held accountable and punished for what they did. I know that was a mouthful, and it's probably a great time to take a little breaky break while we unpack and peel back the layers of everything that just came out in this beginning of a manual entry. But yeah, this is where I'm at, and I appreciate the people for meeting me where I'm at today as we are diving a little deeper into this manual entry.
Network is like no other streaming network. We are not controlled by corporate sponsors or political influence. We are a network created by the people, for the people. Our people, that is. Representation is so important, and we are focused on providing that. So spread the word. Follow us on all major social media platforms at Pyro Media Network. Or you can visit our website at www.pyromedianetwork.com, and we will take your viewing experience to the next level. Okay, we are back. And I want to open back up with a few
rhetorical, not so rhetorical questions that I think I kind of want to ask myself, but also want to ask the people and leave y'all with to kind of ponder on. Yeah. So, how do you honor what you feel in these moments, especially in these moments where it's like a super sticky situation where you don't know if you're supposed to feel happy or sad or angry or anguished? Like, sometimes the situations are so complicated that you gotta really wrestle with your feelings. Like, the coexistence of completely different things are going on. How do we make our peace with that? For me, I think it took a lot of self work. Um, it took a lot of years of me living life, experiencing different things, getting deeper in my faith, and just kind of understanding that no, little 8-year-old, 9-year-old you is not to blame for something bad happening in the world. It's no way my small little self possessed that much power to cause a tragedy that completely reshaped and resurfaced the fabric of my whole existence. That's not how things work. Um, I had to come to a point where I gave myself forgiveness and grace. Do I understand why it happened? No, and I don't think I probably ever will, because sometimes you just won't get the answers to why bad things happen. And unfortunately, you just have to sit with it. Unless there is some phenomenon that I have not experienced, maybe there will be a godly manual in the upper room when we get there, long time from now, that will hold all the keys and tools and clues to why everything that happened in our lifetime happened. Then no, we're not gonna always get the answers, but we're gonna have to be cool with not getting the answers. Instead of getting that answer, you're gonna have to put the focus on something else. I hear people say, well, I forgave them, to people who did horrendous things to them or who caused major losses in someone's family. Like, how can we forgive somebody that did something so vile and disgusting as taking someone from this earth? How? Like, how? I struggled with that, but living, experiencing, and just kind of seeing life from a different lens, it kind of let me know that that forgiveness is not necessarily for them. It's more so for you. It's more so for us. It's more so for yourself. So when I hear people make those statements, or when I used to hear people make those statements, and I'd be like, how could you ever do this? How could you ever forgive someone who did something bad? I get it now. I get that it was for their own self, in order to free themselves of holding on to that, just carrying something so heavy for so long. That can really take it out of somebody. Carrying something so heavy on your shoulders for years and years and years, just, it's gonna wear you down. And it wore me down for several years. um it's probably still wearing people in my family down that haven't even come to the conclusion or the place right now where I'm at to be able to speak it out loud and even say it, just air their personal laundry out there with this type of feelings or this type of vulnerability. The forgiveness is usually not for that person. It might be of that person, but that forgiveness is for you. You're not gonna make it's not gonna make sense, and some things probably never will make sense to you. But that forgiveness is not. Do it for yourself. Another thing that I want to really take note of is that sometimes people can also be forgiven, but it's not going to necessarily make them immune to consequences. Um, that eye for an eye mentality it's not as realistic as we would want to believe, and unfortunately, in this life, we're not always going to get our lick back. And as much as I would love to say that I could just be out here rogue, getting my lick back and getting even with every person that's did something bad or done something wrong, is just not realistic, and it's not possible, and it's not going to change the situation of what occurred. So that that same mentality is kind of in that same vein as the forgiveness being for yourself, because it's the consequence. You might not always be the person who's going to deliver it, but I could guarantee that everybody that gets their justice or their due from what they've done has to deal with consequences, and we might not be the one who has the power to determine what that consequence may be, but just know that the deliverance of it is not for you, even though we probably would want it to. I agree, I do too. I would love to be able to make people experience what they did to me, but it's just not realistic. And yeah, like, no, I make my peace by understanding that life is not always going to be filled with good things. Sometimes people are going to make bad decisions. Now, does that mean you don't love them anymore? No, it doesn't. Does that mean you still have to allow them in your life or be around them? Absolutely not. You don't have to. That's not the point that I'm trying to make in this whole conversation that we're having. It's just that sometimes the grace and the understanding is going to look disgusting and it's not going to make sense. But we can't carry heavy things, no matter how ingrained they are in our person, in our identity, and what has made us be who we are. Yes, we can acknowledge that they may have shaped us or formed different ways that we view the world, but we can't continue to let them define us. And I don't want to continue to be someone who is defined by that feeling, or knowing that my personality, my actions, all the different ways that I move in this world are based on that. So yeah, that's what I got on my chest. That's what I had to get off today, and I just want y'all to know that it's okay to hold on to love, but also acknowledge the truth of a situation in that same accord. Sometimes good people make mistakes. Other times, bad people do things that sometimes you can convince yourself that it was your fault, but it wasn't. Yeah, I think that's all I got. I feel like I'll have to put it all in the manual, maybe write it out. Maybe I'll come up with some type of like journal questions or something for the people to write with, because I feel like y'all feel me, but I really want y'all to feel me. But until then, that is just what I am putting in the manual. Yeah, I hope I left you with something that you can take with you after listening to this. Bye.
This episode is brought to you by Pyro Media Network, produced by Pyro Media Productions, setting brands ablaze since 2017. Thank you for listening.